Hi, I'm Bradford, the Penny Pinch Dad of Personal Finance, and in this video, I'm going to walk you through how to fill out IRS Form 1040 for tax year 2022 using the following assumptions. We'll be using the filing status of married filing jointly with a single dependent, and the sources of income are going to come from your W-2, 1099 INT, as well as your 1099-B, and then we'll be using the standard deduction as opposed to itemizing our deductions. Now, if you're single or if you don't have any dependents, you might want to check our walkthrough that covers that example right here. Now, before we actually jump into this walkthrough, I can't recommend highly enough that you get open the 1040 general instructions that I have linked in the description down below. These cover a general overview of how to actually file the Form 1040, what are changes from last year to this year, whether or not you have to file at all, as well as helpful line-by-line instructions that are going to go through each step of the 1040, as well as what outside forms and schedules that you might need to fill out to be able to file your individual income tax return completely correctly. Now, with that in mind, let's jump into the 1040 and get started. So here we have IRS Form 1040, which is going to be U.S. individual income tax return for tax year 2022. The first section that we're going to mark is what is your filing status, and you want to make sure you get this right. For this example, we're going to be using married filing jointly. Now, the next section is basically just your personal information, so that way the IRS can compare whatever you were submitting with what other tax documents have been submitted on your behalf, like W-2s and 1099s. So for this example, we're going to have John Smith and Jane Smith, just your first, last with your middle initial, and then input your social security number. The next section is just going to be your home address, number, street, your city, town, state, zip code, and if you are filing out of the country, that's going to go in this section down here. And then everybody, with you and your spouse, you're going to have the option to fill out and contribute $3 to the presidential election campaign. That choice is up to you. This is not something that I have ever submitted money for. Now, moving on, we're going to be getting down to digital assets. This deals with things like cryptocurrency and NFTs. It came about in tax year 2021. But for this example, we're going to say that no, John didn't do anything with buying or selling your cryptocurrency, because that just gets a little bit more difficult, and that's worth of another video all in of itself. Now, the next section deals with the standard deduction and deals with whether someone can claim you or your spouse as a dependent. For this example, we're going to say no, that's not applicable, as well as if you are a more elderly individual. So if you were born before January 2nd, 1958, or if you're blind, or if your spouse was either born before that date or is blind as well, because that is going to change how the standard deduction works for you. And now getting into the section for dependents, we're going to be looking at this part. You need to put their first name, their last name, their social security number, what their relationship is to you, and then whether they qualify for the child tax credit or if they qualify for the credit for other dependents. Now, the child tax credit, that's going to be if they were under the age of 18 and if they're actually your child. Other credits that could be is if you're caring for an elderly parent or for a child that's still currently in college and you are claiming them as a dependent, but they are legally considered to be an adult. So for this example, Joe Smith, we're going to say he's 4 years old, and so he is going to qualify for the child tax credit. Now, if you do have more than 4 children or 4 dependents, you're going to want to make sure you check this box, as well as reference the 1040 general instructions for how to move forward and how to get all of those individuals listed on your Form 1040. And once we have all that completed, we're actually going to scroll down here. We're going to move to line 1, and this is where we're going to start inputting the numbers that are going to affect how much you pay, as well as whether you are owed a refund or you have to pay more in taxes. So line 1, this is going to be dealing with what your sources of income are. So 1A, this is going to be the total amount from your Form W-2 box 1. So for this example, this is how much money John made over the previous year. We're using $52,130.63. Now, this number is going to be coming from your W-2, which is going to indicate how much money you actually earned, as well as how much money that you've already paid in federal income taxes, as well as Social Security and Medicare taxes as well. Once we have that number, we're going to input in 1A. The rest of the options under 1, they're going to be like household employee wages, tip income, Medicaid waiver payments, taxable dependent care benefits, things that your employer is paying for, none of which are applicable in this example. It's going to be employer provided adoption benefits, wages from Form 8919, other earned income, as well as non-taxable combat pay election. So really only applicable if you're serving in a combat zone in the military. So since none of those things are a factor, we're going to add up everything that's underneath 1 from A all the way to H and I, and then we're going to be putting that in 1Z. So if none of these other things apply to you, you can just copy and paste whatever is in 1A down to 1Z. Now moving on to line 2, this is going to be tax exempt interest as well as taxable interest, and then qualified dividends and ordinary dividends. So for these, you're going to be getting this information off of Forms 1099 DIV for dividends, as well as Forms 1099 INT for interest. Most people, if they have a bank account, whether it's a checking account or a savings account, you're probably going to be earning some sort of interest. And so your bank or credit union is going to issue you a 1099 INT to signify how much you earned over the past year. So for this example, John made $23.50 off his high yield savings account from the previous year, and that's going to go here in box 2B. Most instances, you're not going to be dealing with 2A or 3A for tax exempt or qualified dividends. If that's something that you are curious about whether or not it applies to you, make sure you dig into the 1040 general instructions, and it'll lay out in clear fashion whether or not you're going to be concerned about this section. And then moving on to 4, 5, and 6, this is going to be IRA distributions, pensions and annuities, as well as Social Security benefits. Now, all these are going to be dealing with retirement status. So if you're not in retirement, you're not going to need to worry about this. If you are in retirement, you should be getting a form from whoever you have your annuity, your IRA distributions, or your Social Security benefits. And that's where this information is going to go right here in boxes 4, 5, and 6. Now, 7 is going to be dealing with capital gain or loss, and then attaching Schedule D if required. So for this example, John is going to be required to file a Schedule D since he did have on his 1099-B $574.20 in capital gains over the previous year. If you get other sorts of capital gains or losses, you might also have to fill out Form 8949, which is an additional form showing how you actually made that capital gain or loss. But if your only capital gain or loss is coming from a 1099-B, all you're going to be required to fill out is a Schedule D in addition to your 1040. So moving down to 8, this is going to be other income from Schedule 1, line 10. Now, Schedule 1 deals with other sources of income that are less common, things like alimony or credits from your state. In this example, it's not going to apply. So we're going to come down to 9, and this is going to be adding 1Z, 2B, 3B, 4B, 5B, 6B, 7, and 8. This is in your total income from the previous year. So we're going to have $52,728.33 as total income from the previous year. And now we're going to be going through taking away the standard deduction to figure out how much we actually owe in taxes in terms of how much taxable income did we have. And so for that, we're going to be coming down to line 11. So this is going to be subtracting 10 from 9. And so that's going to require you to look onto Schedule 1. If Schedule 1 doesn't apply and you're leaving it blank, like in this example, you can just take whatever is in 9 and copy it, paste it into 11. Now, once we get to 12, this is going to be dealing with whether you're taking the standard deduction or the itemized deduction. If you're curious what the standard deduction is, it is listed in the 1040 general instructions, as well as on the left side of the sheet right here. So using the married filing jointly, we're going to be taking a standard deduction of $25,900. And this is what is going to reduce our taxable income by. So we're going to copy and paste that into section 12. Looking at 13, the qualified business income deduction from Form 8995 or 8995A. This is going to be if you have some sort of self-employment income. With the Tax Cut and Jobs Act of 2017, it allows business owners to deduct up to 20% of their profits from their actual taxable income. So this isn't going to apply here since we're just using W-2 income. We don't have any sort of self-employment income to report on these taxes. So we're going to leave 13 blank. 14 is adding lines 12 and 13. If you don't have any sort of self-employment income, you can just copy and paste 12 into 14. Now for line 15, what you're going to be doing is subtracting 14 from line 11. Now this is going to give you your total taxable income. So for 2022, John Smith had a taxable income of $26,882.33. Congrats, we've completed half your Form 1040. Now we're going to be moving on to the next page with line 16, figuring out how much we actually owe in taxes. Now here we are with line 16, and this is going to be figuring out how much taxes we owe. Really quick, pointing to Forms 8814, that deals with unearned income for dependents under the age of 18. Let's say you set up a 529 or an UTMA, or you gave stocks and mutual funds to a child of yours, and they are earning above a certain amount. That's going to affect how those taxes are paid out. And then the 4972 deals with large lump sum things that you're having to pay taxes on. Think things like winning the lottery. Now, to actually figure out how much we owe in taxes, we're going to go jump over to the general instructions, and we're going to look at the tax tables. So here we have the general instructions for Form 1040. So on the left-hand side, using the table of contents, we're going to come down here and look at the 2022 tax table. And then from there, we're going to scroll down to figure out the number that is most close towards how much taxable income we made for the previous year. So coming down here, we know that we made above $26,000, but below $27,000. So we're going to come down here, and we know the amount of taxable income that we have is going to be between $26,850 and $26,900. Now, each of these columns deals with what sort of filing status you're using. So you can just scroll up or down to the next page, and you can see the first column is single, then married filing jointly, married filing separately, and head of household. So for this one, we find this line, we go across to the filing status that we have. So the amount of taxable income and how much taxes we actually owe is going to be $2,814. So we're going to copy and paste this number and put it back on line 16 of the actual IRS Form 1040. So now that we have this here in line 16, we can go move on to line 17. So the amount from Schedule 2, line 3. So Schedule 2 is going to deal with additional taxes. These are less common forms of taxes that majority of people don't have to deal with. And in this example, they are not applicable. So we're going to leave line 17 blank. 18 is just adding 16 and 17. So for most people, you can just copy whatever is in 16 and paste it in 18. The next section deals with the child tax credit or credit from other dependents. So the child tax credit is going to be $2,000 per child. Please note this is a change from the previous tax year of 2021, where that amount had increased to $3,600 due to COVID emergency exemptions, but now it is back down to the standard amount of $2,000 per qualifying child, where you're able to take that child tax credit. So for this example, with one child for Joe, that's going to be $2,000 for the child tax credit. And the next line is going to be 20. We're going to add the amount from Schedule 3, line 8. Schedule 3 deals with additional credits and deductions. Now, most of these are not going to apply to most people, but anytime I'm filing taxes, I would make sure just to check it out, even if the off chance that anything even applies to you. Anytime you have the opportunity to lower how much you owe in taxes or to increase your refund, I would take advantage of it. Now, for this example, none of those things are going to apply, so we're just going to leave that section blank. Now moving on to 21, so we're going to add lines 19 and 20. So for this one, with just the single child credit, it's going to be $2,000. If you had two children, it'd be $4,000. Four children, it'd be $8,000. But for this one with just one child, it's going to be $2,000 that we're going to be putting into line 21. Now line 22, I'm going to subtract line 21 from line 18. So for this one, it's going to be the 2814 minus 2,000. So we have the remainder of $814.00. 23, this is going to be other taxes, including the self-employment tax from Schedule 2, line 21. Self-employment tax is really something you only have to worry about if, again, you are self-employed. So if you are doing some sort of contract work, so you're driving for Uber, you're earning some money off of Fiverr or something like that, that is going to be a consideration for you. In this example, it's not a factor, so we're going to leave line 23 blank. 24, we're going to add lines 22 and 23. This is going to be the total tax that is owed. So for this example, since 23 isn't a factor, we're copying 22 into 24. Now we can move on to the next section, which is going to be payments. This is going to be 25A, the federal income tax that was already withheld. So looking back at the W-2 from earlier, we see that we already paid $2,736.00 that our employer withheld on our W-2, so we're going to input that there. Forms 1099 or other forms, so other sources of employment or sources of income, if somebody else has already withheld money on your behalf, you're going to put that there. Now D, since all we had was 25A, we're just going to copy and paste 25A into 25D. 26 deals with estimated tax payments and the amount applied for the 2021 tax return. Most people are not going to choose to apply any refund from the previous tax year to the next year, but we'll address that as we get to the bottom of this form. The other section is going to be estimated tax payments. If you're already having income that is withheld on your behalf by your employer, that's not something you're going to really have to worry about. Really, it only comes in a factor if you are making some sort of self-employment income and you are having to pay that estimated taxes throughout the year because nobody is withholding that money for you. So again, that section doesn't apply. Line 27, the earned income credit. This is for low income individuals or low to moderate income individuals with dependents. So for this situation, John does not apply for the EIC, so we're going to leave that section blank. 28, this is going to be the additional child tax credit from Schedule 8812. It's not applicable in this situation. 29 is going to be American Opportunity Credit. That deals with helping you fund your undergraduate education, not applicable here. 30, that is blank. 31, the amount from Schedule 3, line 15. Again, that's going to be the additional credits and deductions, so not a factor in this specific situation. 32, this is just going to be adding up your total other payments and refundable credits. We're going to leave that blank since nothing was applicable in this situation. So we're just going to copy and paste what was in 25D into line 33. Now we're getting the next part. Did we overpay our taxes or did we underpay our taxes? So in this situation, we overpaid our taxes. So we're going to subtract how much we have already paid from what we actually owed. And that's going to give us the amount that we are due a refund for. So that's what we're going to get in 34. So we're owed a refund of $1,922.00. Now line 34A and 35A should always be the same number because you always want the full amount refunded to you. So for that one, you're going to put your routing number, your bank account number, whether it's a checking or savings account, and that's going to make sure that you get that money electronically deposited, and it's going to be significantly faster than if you wanted a paper check sent through the mail. And now continuing on down here, we have 36. This is the amount of your refund that you want applied to your estimated tax. I had mentioned earlier that that is an option that you could have contributed, but for most people, I'm going to say that you're better off just keeping that money instead of giving Uncle Sam an interest-free loan on your behalf. So we're going to leave that section blank. Now 37 is going to be the amount that you owe. So if you did underpay your taxes, again, you're going to have to actually pay those taxes. That's going to go on 37. And then you also have to figure out how much you owe as a underpayment penalty, and that's going to go on 38. I think it's messed up that if you overpay your taxes, Uncle Sam just gives you that money back with no interest. But if you underpay your taxes, you have to pay that amount, which was what made sense, but you're also going to be paying a pretty hefty fine on top of that. So I don't make the rules. If I did, it'd be different, but that is how life works right now. So continuing down here, we're going to be getting down to third-party designee. So do you want another person to be able to discuss this with the IRS? For most people, that's going to be no. What we're dealing with here is, say, you're an elderly parent and you're having a child file your taxes on your behalf, or basically you're having somebody else that you know file your taxes on your behalf. You might want to say yes, put that person's name down, their phone number, what their personal identification number is going to be. And then getting down here, you can actually print this out, sign it, date it, put what your occupation is, and then you're going to put your IRS PIN in here. If you filed taxes before, you're going to have a PIN. If this is your first time filing taxes, don't worry about it because this is going to be something that you get when the IRS actually returns your tax return to you. And then at the very bottom of the document, this is just me if you're using a CPA, if you're using some sort of tax preparation software, Free Tax USA, TurboTax, H&R Block, they're going to be filling in this section. Now for how you actually file your taxes, you have a couple options available to you. You could use the IRS free fillable forms where basically you're going to take everything that you put on your 1040 and you fill it out online, and then it allows you to e-file it. You could also use some sort of tax prep software. There are free options out there where you can just type everything that you already put on this form and put it in there. Or you can also go this snail mail route of you print this out, you sign it, you send it in the mail. Where you're actually going to be mailing it to, you're going to be getting that based on where you live and how much you owe in taxes, and you can get that information off the 1040 general instructions that I've already mentioned. Now, if your tax situation is a bit more complicated, we do have quite a few videos that I've linked in the description covering things like Schedule C, self-employment taxes, 1065, Schedule K1s, lots of different opportunities to be able to file your taxes on your own and save some money. But if you're looking for another way to be able to do that without having to spend anything, you might want to check out Free Tax USA, which allows federal filing completely for free, even for self-employment income, and then state filing is just a nominal fee. Thanks for watching, and from your first penny to your first million, we're here to help.